Right now, as you hear these words, a Chinese cargo ship is crossing the Strait of Hormuz. On board, 2,000 metric tons of a chemical that transformed Iran into the Middle East's most dangerous naval power. This isn't a movie plot. It's not speculation. It's happening right now today, in February 2026. Satellite images don't lie. In October 2025, China delivered to Iran 2,000 tons of sodium perchlorate. To you, that name means nothing. But to the admirals of the U.S. Navy who monitor the Persian Gulf every day, it's the equivalent of handing over the full recipe for an arsenal that can shut down 21% of the world's oil in minutes. Let me break down what that means in practice. Sodium perchlorate is the oxidizer that makes solid fuel missile engines function. Think of it as concentrated oxygen that enables intense combustion. Without it, no missile flies. And 2,000 tons is massive. That massive chemical is enough to produce roughly 500 medium-range ballistic missiles. 500 missiles capable of hitting any ship in the Persian Gulf. Now listen to this detail. It's everything. China didn't deliver 500 finished missiles. It delivered the manufacturing capacity for 500 missiles. It didn't deliver bread. It delivered flour. And with flour, you can bake bread whenever you want, in whatever quantities you need, for as long as the supply keeps coming. Every missile fired can be replaced, indefinitely. Now let's talk geography. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, about 13 miles. Through that stretch of water flows 21% of the world's oil, every single day. And Iran just gained the ability to turn that corridor into one of the century's most deadly naval choke points. The geography is brutal for any naval force. No room to maneuver. No escape from the coast. If you transit the strait, you're in range of everything Iran has. And now, with Chinese sodium perchlorate, Iran can replenish its arsenal indefinitely. Before, each fired missile meant one less in inventory. Now each fired missile can be replaced with another made locally. Iran already fields missiles with names few in the West know, but U.S. Navy officers study every day. The Abu Mahdi, with a range of over 1,000 kilometers, about 620 miles, designed specifically to hit warships. The Fatah 1, which combines a ballistic trajectory with terminal maneuvering capability. The Hajj Qasim and the Khaybar Sheikhan, with ranges between 1,000 and 2,000 kilometers, about 620 to 1,245 miles, capable of covering the entire Persian Gulf and beyond. But sodium perchlorate wasn't the only gift. It was just the beginning. In January 2026, 16 Y-20 military transport aircraft landed at Iranian bases. Officially, their cargo was never confirmed. But the volume and number of flights suggest something far beyond routine supplies. Western intelligence indicates the cargo included digital infrastructure components, encrypted communications, sensor networks, surveillance integration. These don't make headlines, but they transform a regional military into an interconnected, coordinated fighting force. On January 26, 2026, the USS Abraham Lincoln, a U.S. Navy nuclear aircraft carrier, began patrols in the Persian Gulf. On board, more than 90 aircraft, 6,000 crew, the most visible symbol of American naval power. But there's a problem. The Abraham Lincoln is operating exactly in the area Iran has turned into an anti-access zone. Imagine a chessboard where all the opponent's pieces cover your king's position. The same area where Abu Mahdi missiles can reach any target. The same area where Iranian drones circle constantly, mapping routes and testing responses. February 3, 2026. Two incidents nearly simultaneous. First, an F-35C shot down an Iranian drone approaching the carrier strike group. Second, Iranian fast boats attempted to intercept a U.S. escorted tanker. Both ended without escalation, but the message was unmistakable. Iran was demonstrating operational control of the strait. February 10, 2026. In Tehran, Iranian officials received a Chinese delegation. Among those present, a scale model of the J-20 stealth fighter. Not just a symbol of technological cooperation. It's a signal that China is willing to share cutting-edge technology with a partner the West considers an adversary. The digital infrastructure from those Y-20s isn't just communications. It's coordination. It's real-time integration of data from multiple sources. faster decision-making than the opponent, turning a dispersed arsenal into an integrated weapons network. For decades, Western strategy assumed it could identify, sanction, and isolate Iran's foreign suppliers. Russia sells missiles, sanction Russia. China supplies drones, block components at the source. But China flipped the script. It's not selling missiles. It's teaching Iran how to fish. Once you know how to fish, you stop buying fish. You can't sanction knowledge. China's building something with historical parallels. In the 1980s, China sold Iran's silkworm missiles, already obsolete weapons. Static systems, easy to locate and destroy. Iran used them in the Iran-Iraq War. They never posed a strategic threat. 2026 is different. Iran isn't receiving finished systems. It's getting production capability. You can't destroy production capability in one strike. It's distributed, hidden, integrated into civilian industry. Sodium perchlorate lets Iran produce roughly 500 missiles, but the digital infrastructure transforms them from a static threat into an adaptive one. Picture the difference between mail and text messaging. Missiles retargeted in real time. Systems that talk to each other. Air defense sharing tracking data. Then comes the final piece. In February 2026, China, Russia, and Iran announced joint naval exercises in the Gulf of Oman, not routine drills. Demonstrations of operational coordination among three militaries with one objective: limit U.S. Navy freedom of movement in the region. Not equipment tests, procedure tests. How three navies communicate in operations. How they share surveillance. How they coordinate in a contested sea. For U.S. naval planners, that's the nightmare. Not one Navy three. Not one arsenal, multiple arsenals coordinated together. Now let's talk math. Missile defense math. And why? In the Strait of Hormuz, the math doesn't favor the United States. A U.S. aircraft carrier has layered defenses. Outer layer. Fighters intercepting threats at long range. Middle layer. SM-6 missiles taking down projectiles at tens of miles. Inner layer. CIWS automatic guns firing thousands of rounds per minute at anything that gets through. Sounds impressive. But each layer has limits. Fighters can't cover everything. SM-6 missiles succeed 80 to 90% of the time under ideal conditions. CIWS is the last resort, effective against individual targets but falls apart under saturation. Saturation attack. Overwhelming the defense system with more missiles than it can handle. Like blocking 100 punches with 2 arms. If a carrier intercepts 20 missiles with high probability, what happens when 100 launch simultaneously? Iran doesn't need to sink a carrier to win. It just needs to make the area dangerous enough that a carrier's presence isn't worth the risk. With indefinite missile production capacity from Chinese sodium perchlorate, Iran can absorb losses and keep attacking. In the Strait of Hormuz, that math gets brutal. 21 kilometers wide, 13 miles. A carrier can't escape a shooting gallery. No fallback, no space to disperse. Everything's compressed into a narrow corridor where geography favors the defender. During the 1980s, when Iran had silkworm missiles supplied by China, the threat was limited. The missiles were old, guidance systems were imprecise, and the stockpile was finite. If Iran fired 100 missiles, it was out 100 missiles. Plain and simple. 2026 is different. Iran fires 100 missiles and, within weeks, produces 100 more. These aren't obsolete silkworms. Modern systems with advanced guidance, terminal maneuvering, and range covering the entire theater. China's digital infrastructure amplifies this. Imagine 100 missiles launching not randomly, but synchronized. Like an orchestra where every instrument enters at precisely the right moment. Some hit the carrier. Others hit escorts. Others overwhelm defenses with false targets. All coordinated in real time, adapting as situations change. Those joint naval exercises, that's exactly the point. Not about firing weapons, but synchronizing operations. Sharing surveillance. Creating an integrated environment where Western navies lose their information advantage. That brings us to the core issue. China's gift to Iran wasn't 500 missiles. It was operational independence, indefinite production capability, coordination infrastructure, integration that transforms individual weapons into a system. You can't bomb operational independence. You can't sanction production already in place. You can't intercept running digital infrastructure. For decades, the U.S. Navy operated in the Persian Gulf, assuming superiority. Carriers could position anywhere needed. Strike groups projected power with minimal resistance. Geography was an inconvenience, never an obstacle. That's gone now. The USS Abraham Lincoln operates in waters where every movement is tracked, every position is known. The threat isn't a finite arsenal, it's sustainable production. The problem isn't just military, it's strategic. If the US decides the risk is too high and pulls the carrier, the geopolitical message is unmistakable. Iran controls the strait. China gave it the tools. Russia stands as partner, not bystander. 21% of global oil flows through the strait. Closing it even briefly creates worldwide economic shock. You don't need war, just enough risk that insurers won't cover tankers. Shipping companies take longer routes. The cost to keep it open exceeds the oil's value. China didn't give Iran the ability to close the strait permanently, but it can make it so contested that Western presence becomes unsustainable. That's a strategic shift no sanctions or embargoes reverse. The February 2026 exercises aren't crew training. They demonstrate that three militaries can operate together in critical waters, share technology, coordinate, share objectives. For Western military planners, that's a problem with no easy answers. Facing one opponent is one thing. Three coordinated opponents, in terrain favoring defense, with endless ammunition supplies, that's a different beast entirely. Saturation attacks get scarier when you factor in continuous production. During the Cold War, arsenals were finite. Each missile fired was gone. Destroy a system, lose it permanently. Sodium perchlorate flips that equation. Destroyed missiles get replaced. Eliminated systems get rebuilt. As long as China supplies materials, Iran sustains operations indefinitely. The digital infrastructure ensures that replenishment is efficient. Integrated systems identify where resources are needed. Encrypted communications networks coordinate logistics. Distributed sensors monitor the battlefield and adjust production according to operational demand. Back to the USS Abraham Lincoln. A nuclear carrier is an impressive symbol, but symbols don't change the math. Don't change geography. Don't change the fact that operating in a 13-mile corridor under constant watch against an enemy with infinite replacements isn't sustainable long-term. Those February 3rd incidents were tests. The F-35C downed drone wasn't attacking, it was measuring response times. The fast boats intercepting the tanker weren't seizing it. They were probing U.S. escort tactics. Each test feeds data. Data builds simulations. Simulations improve next scenario coordination. China's digital infrastructure processes, analyzes, and integrates it all in real time. That J-20 model on February 10th was more than diplomacy. It was a message. China will share cutting-edge military tech. The J-20 is 5th-gen stealth systems, advanced avionics, contested environment capable. Iran doesn't have J-20s and won't soon. But the message isn't about aircraft transfers. It's about deep tech cooperation. If China shares stealth fighter designs, what else will it share? The answer: 16 Y-20s landing in January, 2,000 tons of sodium perchlorate in October, joint naval exercises in February, digital infrastructure linking it all into one system. Iran stops being a passive weapons buyer. It becomes an active partner in a military ecosystem with two superpowers, an ecosystem designed specifically for the Strait, Persian Gulf, and Gulf of Oman. For the US Gulf, this is fundamental. Decades of strategy. Contain Iran via sanctions, isolation, military superiority. But sanctions fail when China supplies materials. Isolation fails when Russia and China are partners. Military superiority fails when geography favors defense and the enemy has endless production. What you just heard isn't theory, not a future projection. It's operational reality unfolding right now. China didn't just deliver weapons, it delivered strategic independence. The capability and infrastructure that turn limited arsenals into permanent threats. That's the reality. The American carrier in waters where its old advantages vanish. This threat can't be surgical striked, can't be sanctioned, can't be diplomatically isolated. It's woven into Iran's industry, backed by two nuclear powers, operating where missile math favors attackers. That's the geopolitical shift you need to grasp. Not surface headlines about Middle East tensions. The mathematical, geographic, strategic reality reshaping the power balance. The February 2026 exercises are Step 1. Each improves coordination. Each coordination boosts effectiveness. Each boost makes U.S. Navy operations harder. It doesn't happen overnight. Incremental. Like training a team until moves become instinct. While the USS Abraham Lincoln patrols, monitored by Iranian drones, tracked by sensors, in range of hundreds of replaceable missiles, one thing becomes clear. That technology transfer shifted the balance irreversibly. It rewrites Middle East rules for years, maybe decades. For serious analysts, the question isn't whether Iran can contest U.S. presence in the Strait. It's how long the U.S. can sustain operations where every advantage is neutralized. The answer isn't carriers or fifth-gen fighters. It's math, geography. The brutal truth: sustainable production, coordinated militaries, and choke point control make conventional power obsolete. Now you know what military analysts debate in secure rooms. Why naval commanders are rethinking strategy. Why 21 kilometers of water rewrote geopolitics. It's finite resources versus an enemy that replaces everything. Satellite images keep showing Chinese cargo ships, Y-20s landing at Iranian bases, 3 Navy exercises. In Iranian factories, sodium perchlorate becomes missiles that'll never appear on inventory, but will forever change narrow sea warfare. Not hypothetical, not speculation. February 2026, operational reality. As you listen, it consolidates. Missile by missile, exercise by exercise, ton by ton. If this exposed connections you missed, if data reshaped your Middle East power balance understanding, subscribe. I analyze geopolitical shifts redefining the world while others read headlines. Want me to map the next strategic shift? Comment below. Should I analyze Russia leveraging China-Iran coordination against Europe? Or Israel recalibrating doctrine for this new world? Your choice. Reality unfolds either way.